I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. It hardly seems a year since the last PRAM event in St Andrews last year. It's certainly been an eventful and a challenging, as well as a very positive year, both for me and for CHS. I think we have actually made real progress. I think things, as Robert said, are really beginning to take shape, and I'm very, very excited and encouraged by what's to come and what we'll be discussing and hopefully looking back on this time next year, if we're all in good health and here. Not least this time last year, the CHS staff team was not in post. Some of them had been appointed and they came along as part of their induction, but they weren't in post. And I just want to say that we all have a fantastic team of people working on our behalf to support you as panel members and members of ASTs to come and members of the panel community. And I can honestly say, and you probably don't need me to tell you this, but a much more committed and hard-working bunch of people I don't think you could find. So I think we all benefit from having a fantastic team of people in CHS, not just the organisation, but the panel community at large. And I want to thank them for everything they've done, because a lot of long hours went in, a lot of packs were being made up late into the night last night in the office, and their commitment is just second to none. Robert mentioned a bit about the area support teams, and as you know, there's been a lot of work going on at the moment to populate the area support teams, and in particular to recruit our area conveners and deputy area conveners, and we've been doing that in different phases. I know I speak for both Alistair from the board and Alison from the staff team who've been involved in the interview panels when I say that we have been absolutely heartened and humbled by the quality of people who have come forward and the quality of people who've put themselves through quite a robust, rigorous process. They've had to earn the appointments, and we're absolutely inspired by the people whom we have appointed. And some of the stories that we had in the interviews, we were just blown away by. So we have got the first of a fantastic tranche of people in terms of the area support teams. Just to follow on from what Robert said, and as you probably know, there is work on the go at the moment to fill the rest of the roles on the area support teams. As you know, we have written to the CPAC members who are eligible to transfer over, and we're doing that in 2 phases because we have to do it as we establish our area support teams. We have asked our panel chairs and deputy panel chairs to come across for continuity as lead panel reps and panel reps for a year to support the panel members. We've also asked our panel chairs who have area chairs and district chairs if they would interview those folk and make recommendations for appointment to the area support teams as well. And likewise with our sub-CPAC folk, we've asked the CPAC chairs if they would interview their people and again make recommendations, and we're getting a steady stream of replies in for that. We've written out to local authorities and asked them to nominate a local authority representative. And come the end of November, we should have the appointment packs all ready to go out to our area conveners and deputies. And with their assistance, we want to recruit our learning and development coordinators and additional panel representatives and panel practice advisors. So as you can see, things are taking shape. We know that it will be challenging. We have an induction and training and support programme in place starting next year for all our area conveners and deputies and for all our AST members eventually. We will have workshops going forward. It will be challenging because we are going to have 2 systems running in parallel, and so we're very conscious not to overburden area conveners and deputies, and we'll be having very careful dialogue and conversations with you as we go forward to make sure that we're not putting too much work, too much expectations on you. But very much looking forward to working with you all to shape the rest of the area support teams and bring everybody else round the table who needs to be there. And I think, as you all know, we have 22 area support teams, and Kit has worked very, very hard in terms of the negotiations, and to date we have 10 partnership agreements signed off. So there is still work to be done, but I think it's always good to stop and take stock of just how far we've come, from last year and over the last wee while, and the work that we have done to begin to shape the area support teams and put the building blocks in place for the new system. And thank you very much for everyone who's worked with us on that and who's helped with that. Just a little bit about where we are now. The first CHS corporate plan was published in May this year, and we also have our business plan, and our annual report was published as well. Both our corporate plan and business plan are based on the national standards, and as you know, there was an extensive consultation process to shape the national standards. For the first time ever, we have a document and a framework that actually writes down the expectations for all of us. And I'm no doubt that those standards will be reviewed as we go forward in due course, but I think it's really essential, and it's heartening to see a document that was written on the basis of so much consultation, so much input. We did a lot of work on advice to hearings, which, as you know, it's a national convener power to provide advice to the hearing. Now, that could be legal advice, it could be about procedures, it could be about the consequences of decisions or the implementation of decisions. But what I would say is that it's not going to be a substitute for the decision of a hearing. A hearing could ask for advice, but they could disregard it. It's still the panel member's decision at the end of the day. The scoping work was carried out earlier in the year, as you know. There was an online survey, and we had almost 500 responses to that, which was absolutely phenomenal. We produced the report with recommendations, and we now have Alison Evans on secondment from SCRA, and she's scoping out the mechanisms by which that advice will be made available to panel members, and she's always also developing the resources and the materials to go with that. The feedback loop. The feedback loop, as you know, is about providing information to panel members about compulsory supervision orders, and we're going to be doing that in 2 phases. The first phase is really looking at the data that we've got already, largely from local authorities and from SCRA, and actually giving area conveners and area support teams and panel members a pen picture of what's happening locally in terms of compulsory supervision orders, trends and referrals, etc., of young people and children coming to hearings. The second phase is a bit more complex, and that's about trying to unpick the impact of compulsory supervision orders and the features of an effective compulsory supervision order. And we very much need to work in partnership with all our partners to develop that. So that will come in 2015. Just want to say that I think we've had a bit of a breakthrough in our negotiations with ADSW. As you can imagine, there's a slight nervousness among social work about whether I'm going to be coming in and inspecting their data, inspecting their children's services, and that essentially is not what the feedback loop is about. But we have had some good discussions with both Fred McBride, who's chair of the Children and Families Standing Committee, and with Peter McLeod, who's the president of ADSW, and I think we're well on the way to getting an agreed statement definition on paper about what we mean by implementation and the timescales within which local authorities agree that they will give effect to a supervision requirement. So once we have another meeting with them and we have a draft on paper, we then hope to set up a reference group and involve people in that and refine something that eventually would be signed off by ADSW and by CHS and myself. Moving on then, just to say a little bit about our partnership with SCRA. Neil and I came into post at the same time, which I think was a huge benefit for both of us. And we've had very, very productive conversations and working relationships, and there is engagement between our 2 organisations at various levels. As you would expect, we are working to the same ends. We have very, very different roles. The first thing we did was draw up a memorandum of understanding, which we took to both our boards, really just to set out the kind of partnership, the cooperation, the effective use of resources that we wanted to achieve, all with a view to securing better outcomes for children at the end of the day. We set out some principles by which we're going to work together in that agreement. First and foremost, of course, is independence. We recognise and we have mutual respect for our independence and the independence of our roles and functions. Our other principles are innovation, challenge, best practice, best fit, partnership, accountability, transparency, openness, close communication. And we also have a data sharing framework that we're working on to provide area conveners with good information, which SCRA already has and has agreed that they will configure it around the AST boundaries for us. So that's just one of the benefits of having a new national organisation, a national convener, principal reporter dialogue going on between both organisations at our level, at board level, and also through the hearings management group, which Alison and Malcolm, who's not here today, have set up and are running and making good strides in dealing with a lot of the issues. I think that we have to challenge each other on and sort out for our panel members. Moving on, we want to have a joined up approach to technology, and I'm not going to spoil the workshop that's coming up, but I got a Kindle for the first time, and I'm going to have to ask someone to show me how to use it, so I'm a bit of a technophobe. But having seen Murray and Fiona in the office yesterday and Leslie work on the tough books, I think if you get an opportunity to go and try the technology, I think you will really enjoy it, and it's a huge step forward, and it is very exciting to look at that and look at the developments and look at what we can actually do jointly. We are going to be working with SCRA on the next Children and Families Survey. The Children and Families Survey that was done in 2008, we are going to be involved in the follow-up to that. And as you know, there were about 900 children and young people who took part in the survey in 2008, and a lot of very, very rich information came out of that. So we're working with SCRA to include some questions in that survey that we want to have answered for ourselves as CHS. We want to ask children, young people and families things like, did the panel show you respect? Did they listen to you when you spoke? Did they clearly explain their decisions? Did they help you feel relaxed? Did they use words that you understood? And did they help you share your views with them? And CHS is then intending to follow up the survey responses that we get, hopefully by doing more qualitative, in-depth interviews with a group of children, young people, families and carers who take part in that survey. And I think that's one really good example of partnership, and there are others through research, but that will give us incredibly good, rich data that will help panel member practice, that will inform training, etc. Thank you for listening.